in transmission. This was what we used to hear when we were younger. We apologize for the break in transmission. So the thing is, and I've said this has happened about 3 or 4 times live. What happens is that when we're going live, we use our own source of power, because the main source of power cannot be trusted, and your own source of power should not fail. But hey, these things happen, so we like to apologize for that. We're sorry, because quite a few people had latched on to the feed and it's gone. But in between that time, the source of power brought in another source of power.
Another source of power.
A force just hit the studio like, and there's no need for me to talk too much. His hair looking like Stevie Wonder. And of course, we love Stevie. I don't mean that in a bad way. And of course, the one and only Yomi Kuko is back in the studio, but this time without water or anything.
After such a long break from the bar.
And he's wearing the best jersey in the world.
Yeah, right.
The best jersey for the best club that has ever existed on planet Earth.
Yeah, right.
I know you guys know the team, so there's no, but for the people who don't, or who are pretending they don't know, Flaming.
We do.
Super. I'm talking about stationery stores. So that's what it is. Sadly, it's not. The show is not about stationery stores.
Exactly. Thank you very much.
But one of these days, we need to do a stationery store show.
Yeah, you might, but not at the moment. Thank you very much.
Okay, one doing you buy.
Moving on.
Okay.
Okay, are you done with your
up super with the white handkerchief?
International.
Okay. Anyway, so before we went on break, we were talking about Sudan and a few things that is happening in the countries. Now, China is talking about how they had moved a bit of their citizens, and I was saying that the world is really a global village now, because there are a lot of people that China, Pakistan, India, they're all talking about moving their citizens in the thousands out of Sudan. And you would have thought, like, what the Chinese and Indians and Pakistan is looking for in Sudan. So at the moment, the only thing all these things always just tells me is that the world is really indeed a global village. Everybody's everywhere at this point, because really, like, seriously, what are you looking for in Sudan? I'm just a very honest.
You're still on that thing, Abby.
But there's a lot in Sudan.
No, that's what I'm just saying.
Sudan is quite ancient.
Yeah.
It's a country that has a tradition with a lot of medicine, with scholars.
Top notch.
No, I get it. You know what? Before we went off, what I was saying was that whether we like it or not, Sudan has not been very restive for a few years now. So it was very, take for example, like the Ukraine war thing. It was almost sudden.
Well, you see, something we need to take note of is all these things dates back to more than 3-4 decades. We had Jafar Nimeri, which the West preferably called a dictator. And a lot of all these leaders that they call dictators were actually holding their country from activities that could have led them to some of these wars for a long time.
Yeah.
And at every point in time, when you have countries that have been colonized or, for a very long time, there's always a reason for them to leech on a stable leadership. So most of these countries naturally will be wishing for some kind of benevolence from their leaders. So, and about the time that he was overthrown by Omar al-Bashir, then Sudan started having problems, and they also had their own problems of the South Sudanese, wanting to break off, which is now, so there's always been crisis.
That's what I'm saying. Like it has always really been.
Yeah.
So,
but this time around,
as much as they're not like, I really did do a lot of reading over the weekend into Sudan. Yeah, because last week I actually got like, what are people looking for in Sudan? But it really looked like, okay, yes, there was their educational system.
Even sports, most especially football.
Yeah,
We've seen a lot of Nigerians who have gone to Sudan to play football. They got signed on. But see, El Merreikh is one of the biggest clubs in Africa. They pay very well, and they're really very solid with their facilities. Even more than Nigerian clubs. That's the thing.
Yeah, I'm just saying, like, so that
they transfer the player for more than $1 million from Nigerian league.
I didn't know that up until like over the weekend when I did a bit of research, and I'm now still saying that even with all that, because Sudan has not really been, they've been on the brink for a while.
Yes.
I just felt that it's probably not your top 3 or your top 5 places
Dolu,
to go to.
Let me tell you something. What al-Bashir created in Sudan was a waiting time bomb.
Yes, exactly.
Because he created an evil that he initially used in fighting some of his opposition, and then he's out of the system. These people have grown up. There is no way you're ever going to create anything out of the institutional apparatuses that you have, and then things will start to work.
Yeah.
At some point, those people too, they are influential, they are human beings. They
too
start
want
gaining ground, and they feel that,
that's
okay.
basically what's happening at the moment.
Yes.
Everybody wants.
So, and when that happens, they are no longer accountable to anyone.
When you create what they refer to as a Janjaweed, a militia with over 100,000 members.
What do you
expect?
What do you expect? Yeah.
Go and check some countries. Their army, they don't even have up to 40,000
at all.
But you have a militia that is 100,000 strong alongside the army.
Oh.
What do you expect?
And one of the things a lot of African leaders did in the last 20 years was to whittle down the influence of the army so that military coups can actually be reduced. That was a strategy even most of these Western nations actually gave on. Yes, of course.
Oh, that was the strategy behind it.
They stopped
most countries, virtually all the countries. You don't have to mention them.
That's very.
But
I know that happened. For example, in Nigeria, but.
You said that.
You said it.
I didn't say it.
It did.
It
is what it is. Let's call it spade a spade. But the issue is that.
But we can call it spade a spade. So spade
or spaghetti.
You get.
But what I'm saying is that. Okay, take for example, Nigeria and the emergence of the Boko Harams and the ISWAPs.
Yeah.
Imagine if the idea of reducing the army didn't happen.
Yes.
I think that it probably would not, other than the fact that there were already terrible people involved in stealing money and money for arms, diverting funds and all that. I feel that a lot of other things too would have helped if there were more personnel.
I disagree.
Yeah, it is not impossible, Shola.
But I disagree.
It is not impossible. But one thing that is quite apparent, that is clear to everyone, was the destabilization of some countries like Iraq, like Libya, like Syria, overwhelmingly contributed to what we're seeing, most especially in Libya. I have an individual who was unfortunate to get into a tough Libyan prison some decades back. And he came back to Nigeria and was telling us what Gaddafi was doing to hold back these fundamentalists. Yeah. He was actually just throwing all of them into prisons. And so you overthrew Gaddafi and then you let loose all these criminals who hide under religion.
Yeah.
And there was someone who was warning everyone, including the US, Italian Premier then, Silvio Berlusconi. And they were saying that he was doing his personal business. Well, I don't want to dispute that. Neither do I want to be his solicitor. But the idea of Gaddafi holding back these people actually helped us.
Yeah, he did.
Because all these small armaments that you see, cross-border smuggling, selling, trafficking and all that, is the product of those destabilization. Yeah. And then you see, we can't rest. And those things are like now 3 for 10 naira in the black market that they're selling. Look at the way Nigerian army is arresting, all those peddlers every day. And so that's why I don't belong to a school of thought that blames Nigerian army. Because they are like at the war front every night, every day.
I agree. I think they're doing amazing.
Yes. I look at people when they say, "What is the army doing?" I just say, "You don't know what you're saying. You've got no idea."
The reason why I said I disagree with that angle about whittling down the number and allowing Boko to grow is that the main reason was this thing with Libya and all those other countries. But if you go and check and honestly, this is a fact-based statement that I'm about to make. The Nigerian army did not get equipment for a very long time.
Absolutely, yes.
The Air Force planes were grounded.
Yeah.
The Navy did not get new badges or boats or anything.
Yeah.
And one day, when they thought they started getting things, they even made a joke of themselves, the Nigerian army. I'm a strong supporter of the army. But they made a joke of themselves when they were talking about drones, and they brought out a toy drone.
Well,
you understand?
A drone is a drone now. What do you mean?
A drone is a drone, actually.
I'm sure the government was embarrassed into action. And guess what now? If you're talking about a strong army now, today in Africa, Nigeria is back where it used to be.
Yeah.
You know, they have the equipment, the APCs are everywhere. Please, when I say APCs, armored personnel carrier.
Please be clear. I was just like, about, what do you mean?
You know, we're at the point where we're even exporting.
Yeah.
You know, we're exporting.
There was DIC now, Defense Industry in Kaduna.
Yeah.
And then, you know, they're back now. They're doing well now.
Yes, I heard so.
How I think Germany had bought I think some boats for the Nigerian army from Nigeria. There are a lot of countries that are doing a lot now. So I think that the Nigerian army is doing amazing.
They've always been. They were just decimated. That was just it. Just to corroborate your point. They've always been. The Nigerian army. See, even when the US were not able to go into Somalia in the early parts of the 90s, the Nigerian army went in there. There was the ECOMOG force. It was the Nigerian army that held the whole West Africa. So you are wondering, why are they not able to hold in Nigeria? If you could hold the whole West Africa. So everybody knows very well that the Nigerian army are quite very strong. But due to some international strategic reasons, they deliberately whittled down the influence of the Nigerian army. And so that's why nobody can rest now. Nigerian army they've always been very solid. So it's not something that we should debate.
Yeah.
And they always know it. They've been to Somaliland, they've been in peacekeeping force all over the world, everywhere. And
anyway, I heard a few days ago that there's probably a lot of talks of some peacekeeping troops from Nigeria that are probably going to go to Sudan.
They are still fighting now. They can't keep any peace. The first thing is that there has to be a ceasefire.
Yeah,
they need to,
which does not look like it's happening anytime soon.
See, Sudan is gradually slipping into a civil war. That's the truth. And unfortunately,
are they slipping in or they're already there?
No, they are not. This one is a rehearsal. They only rehearsal. Yeah, they're still just in Khartoum, and that's why people can still say they're going to their villages. When it starts, it starts. Then you will see one general who will align with his or her own tribe. With his tribe, and then the other one will align with his religion or his sect. You're going to be seeing, if they come from the same tribe, they will start saying I'm a Sunni, I'm a Shiite, I'm a this, you understand?
Yeah.
So, because Sudan is actually a Muslim majority now, outside of the fact that South Sudan used to be, and those ones, they are already gone.
They're on their own.
And they're on their own and fighting their own wars.
Fighting their own wars.
So that's
well.
That's the reason when I see Nigerians ignorantly tweet, let's divide this country, I'll just laugh. I say, you don't know anything. And it is a big problem for people who don't read. Yeah, people don't read again, and it's quite very unfortunate where they're going to put something. Now, you're saying it's because they're not putting some of those materials online. They're putting it online. You will get only one click. Somebody is reported to be like a nude leak, and they will pretend to be like there's a snap. You will see them point, click, like trying to force that thing to play. You say, please send it to me. I've heard people like ask me to send them if I have a particular video circulating. I'll just take my hand and say, are you normal? Do I look like somebody who is sharing all this nonsense with you guys? But you see, by the time you go into their world, you will see how petty and it's so sad.
It is. I agree. I agree with you.
And that's the reason people will have that audacity to go and say the army should come back. Those are some of the stupid things people do, and you can't just rationalize it. It's because of lack of history. Yeah. They are not students of history. Yeah. You know what the army stands for, what they should be doing. Not to get involved.
Not to get involved.
All those. When I read it, I was like, these kids. Yeah, they're kids for real. They're kids. Whoever that called them kids and is apologizing is because that person doesn't know what he's saying. Yeah. I know what I'm saying. When you see a kid behave like a kid, you say he's a kid.
He's a kid.
That's it. No other two ways.
Okay, so this is very interesting. How as Nigerians are berating Nigerian government for not quickly evacuating Nigerians in Sudan, Canada has now told its citizens that evacuations are not possible at this time.
Dolu. it is also because we are always looking for this inferiority complex in people's mentality that unless you get one big country, toe, Canadian Armed Forces can't stand Nigeria. Let's leave that story. I'm telling you, toe, they cannot. Yeah, they're next door neighbors to Americans and whatever. That's one story entirely. Wherever Nigerian soldiers have participated in peacekeeping or whatever, Canadian forces would never. So for us now to believe that we were not able to stand up and do the right thing, except Canada says, oh, we're not able to get it. Those are some of the silly things you read about and you just shake your head and say, God, when will this country actually make people, like, if you want to be a doctor, if you don't have A1 in history, you can't become a doctor. Look, listen, Dolu, because Nigerians don't know their history, they have lost everything. You will see a medical doctor, qualified, standard, everything. He will argue like a kid, and you will just be like, wow.
Like how did this one become a doctor?
Yeah.
Because the only thing he does is just do a FICO, read, and go for exams, and he comes out. He doesn't have an idea of whatever history or where it's coming from and where it's going.
I've always seen those scenarios as a failure of parenting.
Yeah.
But it's a discussion for another day. Because you're talking about someone who is academically sound.
Yeah.
But is not aware
He's
of
not.
other things beyond academics.
At all. He's not. So I just look at, so Canada is not able to go in. See, common sense tells you people are using RPGs, they're using surface to air, surface to surface, missiles, airplanes, bombing and whatever. And you want to carry a civilian aircraft into the middle of people who have actually lost their minds.
People who have burnt planes.
Yes. People are saying that, you know what, we all die here. Look, what Sudan is going through right now is a situation of we all die here.
Yeah, there even Sudanese citizens, they're talking about how I think they're moving to Chad. Oh. And I saw, when I heard Chad, the first thing that came to my mind is, these people are, Nigeria is their final bus stop.
Of course not. So what do you think?
So for people who don't know, there's a strong tie between Nigeria and Sudan.
Very strong.
There are generations of Nigerians who live in Sudan.
Of course.
Mostly for the northern part. But there are also a large chunk of Nigerians from the southern part who trade in Sudan.
Of course.
There are many of them.
It's like telling Nigerians that, what are the Nigerians doing in Ivory Coast? You are telling the Jigbo people that, what are you doing there? Mm-hmm. People,
I'm just saying, I'm like, Nigeria already has its own issues. Like, well, I'm not saying that it's a bad thing, but I'm like, okay, at this point,
but let
all
me,
that Chad matter is Nigeria.
So let me tell you something. I remember, and only recently did the very last set of these brothers of ours and sisters go back home during the war in Liberia. Throughout the period of that war, and for 2-3 decades after, almost 3 decades after, we had Liberians living here.
Yeah.
En mass. Like, they came in,
of course,
as refugees, but they got integrated into the system.
Totally. Many did not return.
They were not, at some point,
many did not return. They are still here.
At some point, the so-called camps just disappeared because the Liberians had blended in.
If you go to Oru, they are still there.
They're there.
The ones who were born here, they tell you they have nowhere to go, and they're not like Ijebus. So they speak Ijebu, and
again, if it happens again, well, it's not a bad thing.
I've got cousins who actually they were born in Sierra Leone. They grew up there, and they're still citizens. And one, like a niece, came, and I saw her. You don't know? I said, I've never. Oh, the dad, and they're like, they're still free here. Yeah. You will go to Sierra Leone in Freetown, you will be hearing Yoruba names and all that.
Now that I think about it, I actually know someone that they're actually like, their mom is Sierra Leone.
Yeah.
But you don't even know. They literally the woman just went to Sierra Leone for the first time, I think a year or two ago. Yeah. She's born and bred in Ibadan all her life.
And she's Sierra Leonean?
Yeah.
So the Sudanese situation will not be a refugee kind of thing. It will be many
citizens. They will come back home and nothing will happen.
Forget that we don't share a common border. It is still our brothers and sisters coming back home.
Okay, so cool. Quickly before we leave the issue of Sudan, Kenyan government has now also said that they're evacuating their citizens' stock in Sudan. They're saying that a lot of these things are going to be by land travel first before they're airlifted. They're talking about through South Sudan, Ethiopia, Egypt, and Saudi Arabia for granting Kenyan place to evacuate Kenyans from Sudan.
That's it.
So it looks like that's what a lot of people are doing. Find ways
just
to
like
get
the
people.
Nigerian government also
But
said.
it's
They're
not
going to
something you
Cairo.
can respond to in
Yeah.
minutes. It's
Yeah.
not something you can respond to in days. It takes a lot of logistics to do that.
Yeah.
People are,
But again, I would like to beg the Nigerian government that whenever we start hearing about this kind of crisis, we can start being,
I think
proactive.
we can be a little bit more proactive.
We can start being proactive.
Put out
and
more
start,
advisory,
put
travel
out those travel
advisories.
advisories
Yes.
and start, let the embassy start, some work.
which
and
embassy?
everything.
Those ones I don't want to talk about it. I think it's this diaspora woman that should be doing a lot more of the work.
Oh my God.
The sad thing is,
She's just an
she's doing-
agency,
she's doing
right?
more-
If she can perform, let her do it. We don't have to wait. This is human lives. I understand. Because the ambassador, I don't know. Let me not say something that is.
Not even the ambassador,
Because
the
I heard
minister.
now-
The minister. There is a minister of
We have to be
foreign
careful
affairs.
about what we say now.
Yeah.
Because some people are being held for what they are. You'll be held to account.
Anyway, now quickly, still talking about Kenya. Now we're moving from the issue of Sudan and going straight to Kenya because there's a very interesting story coming out from Kenya, and it's the issue of a pastor. And I think he's called Pastor Mackenzie. According to stories, now the death toll of the bodies that have been exhumed have gotten to about 58 of people. And what's the story? They're saying that the man had told people to starve to death to meet Jesus.
Well, this is not the first time. The Guyana tragedy was one, Jim Jones, and people will not still learn. And one thing about religion is that once you're hooked on it, it's like drugs. I've never been a drug addict, but I know how they behave. I've seen quite a number of them, and I've read a lot. It's like an addiction, especially with poor people, because they're struggling and somebody's giving them an alternative to that struggles. So you can't blame them to an extent. And while people are preaching in their various denominations and in their religions, you can also intervene to say that this is against the will of the government or whatever. You are only going to wait for tragedies like this to unfold, to happen before you can respond. But this is a criminal conviction that should come into it naturally. But Jim Jones, did he even wait for himself to get prosecuted in Guyana? So those are the things. And people that would have died. Same thing as in Waco in Texas, after that Guyana tragedy as well. So this is a common occurrence with religion and their followers.
It's
because
very...
even here in Nigeria, we have a lot of precursors to this fundamentalism, where they will tell you that in a year people should fast all through. When you're fasting, who is going to be buying all these foods that is in the market? Many things.
The sad thing about this Kenyan pastor, Pastor Mackenzie, is that in 2019 and 2022, he had been arrested. He was arrested in 2019, and also, March 22 this year. And on both occasions, it was for the death of children, and he was also let go on bond.
Because a lot of times they're going to call it persecution. Listen, some people stood up in this country.
Oh yeah, it's just a few.
Let me tell you something
days ago.
about religion. We all know it. We're just analyzing. Some people stood up in this country and said, an election is coming up. These are the winners. They were all in different directions and all that.
Yeah.
So, and this got into the head of addicts, people who are fundamentalists, and they began to say, the Lord said this unto us. It's going to be fulfilled. Fanatics. And see, everyone is just looking to hook up to something, to spice up their brain, to act immodest or irrationally. So when they get it, it is whatever you like to read that comes to you. And that comes to the issue of the artificial intelligence and TikTok.
Yeah.
For instance, if you go on TikTok, you're always viewing things on the US. You'll be getting things on the US.
Oh yeah, it
if
happens.
you're doing on Ukraine, you'll be doing
Instagram is
so
algorithms.
Exactly algorithms. Yeah. Now those things comes in. Same with religion. It is only what you want to read. You
will get. Yeah.
You're always going to get.
So, but if someone had done their job and prosecuted this guy,
This man, you're
it
not like.
wouldn't have gone as far. Now, another
Shola, let me surprise you. You will send it to prison. Some people will still be praying and fasting that.
Let me give you an
boy.
example of something that I think I did a little bit of research over a few weeks, and this is not even, we say okay, it's very common with Africa. The FLDS in the US. The man is in prison as we speak. There are people that are still hoping, praying that their leader, in quote, comes out. there are a lot of people that the government has literally begged people to get out of that system. They have refused to. Another thing is, there was this thing that you mentioned when talking about people and Nigerian government and all that, and how a particular pastor, this news broke a few weeks ago, where a particular pastor that had a lot of things to say about the presidential elections was arraigned for raping two of his church members. And I remember seeing posts about people saying, keep in mind, this thing has been going on since 2020. And people saying it's because he said things against the government, that is why he's been arrested. And I'm like,
that's religion.
Mad.
That's religion for you.
Like,
so it will see. It is meant to conquer your personality, your rationality, the way you think, the way you can express yourself in humane form. You become basically a robot.
But you can't.
And when you
actually
become a
have
robot,
spirituality and religion and not.
Dolo, is because you can process.
So
you understand, like for instance, now if you bring a cocoa bean here, some people can eat it raw. They don't need to process it.
Yeah.
But some they will say no. So if you can process it in your brain that okay, this is actually Cadbury product or something, like maybe it's Bonvita, and you eat and it stays in your head. That's the way you see it. But you like, what are you eating? Cocoa bean. So it's the way they process it. We process things in different ways.
I'm going to stay, but when you're done.
So and when we do that, you are not able to hold people liable as much as that. People can have influence. So, as you're speaking now, Dulu, some people like they want to listen to you. They respect you. So whatever you say, they take it hook, line, and sinker. It's the same with pastors. They're going to convince you that God says you should listen to them.
I'm going to stay with this pastor's story. This Pastor Paul Mackenzie, Good News International Church in coastal Kenya. 50 bodies were exhumed.
Yes.
Who buried them?
Well,
50 whole human bodies have been exhumed. Do you understand?
Yeah.
You ask them to starve to death.
Okay.
Shola,
By the time they die,
Shola,
why?
You went all the way. You went all the way to Kenya, right? Some decades back, we had a sect in Maryland, and
Can I say something? Can I say something? I don't know if
I mean Maryland, Lagos, so not Maryland, US.
When is the government going to look at what's happening in Ibadan?
Well, unless you can prove a criminal case, that's when the government can come in. Otherwise, they can actually leech on the fact that there's persecution.
There's nothing
you'll be able to do.
that's really happening in Ibadan that is breaking the laws of the land. You know,
that's it.
It just comes off. It just gives us that cult vibe that. You know,
but this is just
if you can't find anything,
you get
okay.
If you can't find anything, you can't do anything.
When adults tell you that they are doing something willingly, then there's no case.
Yes, exactly.
There's no case.
There's no case. You can't do anything.
True, very
until
true.
Criminal things like this come up.
This
then
is
you
a
cannot
criminal-
hold.
So now people, as much as 58 people have to die for this kind of things to pop.
How do you prove that this man is crazy without you being able to actually have an evidence to prove that he's crazy? You know, when you follow people dogmatically, you are going to experience those things. And unfortunately, most of them are going to be children who cannot have control.
There were people who sold their landed properties and handed everything to him. Now, he wants you to...
Is it not,
he wants you to
is
meet
it only
Jesus.
religion? Is it not the same thing that politicians... Look at what has been happening in the last 3-4 months in Nigeria. All the dogmas. You see people doing crazy things. I don't want us to mention because if we start, we won't finish.
We won't. We won't.
So you see, when you are taking your beliefs too far, it's to the extreme. You can't make any sense.
Please teach your children how to process, like Yomi said.
How to
Yes,
use your
it's very
common sense.
important.
I agree.
Teach them how to use their head. And teach them...
Not the headless.
Yeah.
I don't want to say.
Now, teach them also to read their Bibles and their Qurans
themselves.
and their religious books by themselves.
Of course.
You know,
exactly.
and if you are into this worship of Ifa
Oh,
or
yeah.
Batala, teach them the basics of everything.
Inshallah.
The reason why I'm saying all this is that with proper education, and I'm not talking about that academic thing that you do in your classrooms. With proper education, this kind of pastors will not thrive.
I agree. I agree.
You like God rest the soul of my dad. He said something that if you have your children and you cannot engage them, you have lost everything that God has given to you. And it's also the reason that as much as we were trying to like follow the footsteps of our dad, our parents, naturally, because they were Muslims. And of course, we know that in Yoruba land, there's always a household with Muslim and Christians and all that.
Yeah,
But
it's always.
So, yes. So my dad, for him, he was proud that just go somewhere.
Yeah.
Do something.
Just do something.
And he doesn't believe in all this. He would tell. He calls them like they're fanatics. Even as a Muslim, there were certain things that my dad would say. I would just be like, "But you're a Muslim." He said, "Yes."
Yeah, but
no, there's a limit to everything.
Yeah.
And I was just like, "Wow."
Totally agree.
I can't mention many, and he will frown at it and will say, "No, this is where I want to run my house. I'm a Muslim. Yes, thank you. That's what I want." And that's it.
I'm talking about churches and pastors. Now, Pastor Reboye's last son made a statement over the weekend where he said that he made his first million by making rubber armbands.
Yeah.
And a lot of Nigerians have decided to come for him, talking about how why would he not make millions? He's son of Pastor Adeboye and all that, and that he should not come up with this. I saw a tweet where someone said that this is not a grass to grace story. He has always been in grace, so he should not come up with that angle. And for me, I actually did read a bit of that interview. And what did that seem to me? It didn't seem like he was saying that he was a broke person. And I think this was a perfect example of what business people say. That you find a small
What made China?
need and then you key into it.
China started making some of the things that developed countries stopped doing. Firecrackers, Bisco, knockout, that way. Yeah, started making it. They left it to them. They started making things like for basic raw materials for bigger productions. And look at where they are today.
Exactly.
These people you're seeing complaining and talking online, this is all they do all their lives. Go and check their timeline now. They critique everything. Call them for a synergy. Call them to work with them, a partnership. They're not going to do it. Now they've seen somebody who has said something. You need to be in a position of influence to be rich, to make money. That is the truth. Let's not fool ourselves.
Yeah.
That's the truth. We also used to argue in certain ways like, oh, it's a corruption of influence. It's not.
He used his opportunity that he had to, do you understand?
I cannot count the number of Nigerians that I've had discussions with, and you needed to collaborate, to grow together. These same people are the ones you'll find online talking against that. Yes.
Yeah.
Do we collaborate as much? The answer is no.
No.
Nigerians don't collaborate as much as 5%. Believe me. So that's why you see everywhere is stopped. So whatever they're saying, there are people who wake up every morning, just critique and talk and write. This is the only thing they do. And I'll be honest with you. God forgive me. Only way I get amused a lot through them because I read and I'll just be laughing. I say, God. So these people like this still exist.
I agree with you. At times you're like,
I drive a lot of amusement.
Are you like human?
Yeah.
Are you even human at all?
You know, naturally, in those some years back, I would naturally react. But maybe because one is getting older, like somebody told me. You are getting older now. So now you see things like you choose your battles. Yeah, there's no point. They will grow into it. You know, they will all grow into it.
Yeah.
And then when they grow into it, they will understand better. So for me, I can't wait to see all these children. Yes, they're children, they're kids. In 20 years' time, begin to see life another way. Yes, they'll begin to understand. They need to go through this phase. But the only difference is just that their style and approach is totally wrong and doesn't make any sense. There are things that they're likely going to regret. Because there's this proverb. Tí o bá máa sin ẹ̀gbọ́n ẹ ní wòrìwò, máa mú àbúrò ẹ̀ dání. Shola, Boyinbo, please translate.
What does that mean?
If you
I don't know.
Tó bá máa sin ẹ̀gbọ́n ẹ ní wòrìwò, máa mú àbúrò ẹ̀ dání.
Yomi will explain it.
Okay, let me just try and
break it down.
If you're going to bury your older brother in nakedness, don't take along your younger one, because that one would think that is the way they bury people. They will bury you naked too. So that's one thing you should be telling this generation that is so abusive and rude.
Okay. Oh wow. Okay.
So don't bother about them. You know, let them be abusing and writing all kinds of nonsense against everybody. So
okay. Quickly. So moving on from that, the police have now announced that they've finally arrested Nollywood actor Empress Njama's former lover, who released her nude videos, was alleged to have stolen her car, was beating her, doing all sorts of things. And I think he was arrested. I don't even think he's Nigerian. I think he was arrested in Liberia and all that, which I think is we're getting somewhere. At least people actually finally get to pay for their bad behavior.
And the Interpol side of Nigeria is really working well these days.
Yeah.
They need to activate all those things. People, see, when you are not holding people accountable, it's a problem. Societies will not grow.
Exactly.
When somebody has done anything somewhere, use the Interpol, even if they cannot extradite such people. Put them on that nick, all right? The day they're going to nick them, like the UK people will say. One day they're going to nick it. So that's the thing. You can't just be getting away with everything. I mean, look at the way the world is now. Everybody is just at liberty to do whatever they want. Look at the Romanian government, for instance. They're holding one influencer like that. I can't remember his name. And, you know, he does all kinds of things in the name of reality shows.
Yeah.
Is it the Tate guy?
Tate. It talks all kinds of nonsense with a large followership.
Large, actually.
Large,
ridiculous.
very huge.
And then you wonder, like, who's following this guy?
Well, somebody says it's fish brain.
Anyway, also, now let's move on. I know this is like Esra's angle. You know, we talked about this a lot, and this is Elon Musk and his Twitter tags. Now, over the weekend, there's stories of how he had returned people that had over 1 million followers. He had returned their verification tags to them. And I'm like, what's his plan? How confused could you be?
If I make a statement now, people will say don't mind him, it's because he doesn't have a blue tick. But at least people like us who don't have blue tick, we can buy.
At this point, yeah, anybody can buy.
It's quite ridiculous. Naturally, some of these platforms were initially created. I remember, Shola, you remember user.net?
Yeah.
It was free and they said they were going to pay. And that was what killed it.
Yes,
and Yahoo overcame, So this guy has made so much money. And he's got a large followership that thinks that he's the wisest man. That whatever he says is final. And you see the way everybody rushes to whatever he endorses. But you see, there are times you do stupid things. You may get away with it. You may not be able to get it. It all depends. So the way it is now, for me, either they put blue tick or not, I'm not putting my money to add up to. You know, it's like a drop in the ocean.
You know, I saw a tweet. I don't know if you saw it.
And people are even giving him disclaimers already.
It was, I think, El Rufai's wife. That tweet, Governor El Rufai's wife, she had, I think, paid for the blue tick. She now tweeted at her husband that, is he not going to get a blue tick? He now replied and now said that, I'm not going to make a rich man richer.
Yeah.
He should keep his blue tick.
Yeah, okay. You can keep it.
So, Elon Musk, one of the richest men in the world, has turned the whole world to his playground.
Yeah.
He's made something that works, you know, into a confused system now. And it looks like he's just whinging it. It looks like Musk is just...
Okay, let's try this.
Okay, more try like this, you know. I think that's what he's doing.
That's
because
what he's doing, yeah.
when he announced that he was going to remove the tick and that everybody will pay, I knew inside me that was a bad idea. I like the idea of the blue tick. I don't have it too, but I like the idea that I know that I am tweeting at the real Yomi Kuku.
Yeah.
Do you not the 3-4 other fake Yomi Kukus? Now, but with this system now,
and if you want to know those
someone
fake
can buy,
just do giveaway. They will send you their real
account number.
Oh my God.
You know? So someone can buy.
You're like, so this man is following all these trends. They follow.
Someone can buy a tick now and name the real Yomi Kuku. And it starts to be you. And you, that you are the real one, you don't have a blue tick.
I don't.
So it's dangerous. I don't know if you have thought about it. Then returning it based on number of followership is another dumb thing to do. Yeah.
People buy
I'm
followers.
sorry, I'm calling him dumb. Yeah, that's why I feel with this blue tick thing. But
I think that was just in response to they ridicule him.
Oh, but let me guys tell you what I think, and I've seen one or two people think like this. The real Twitter face that we knew was Jack Dorsey.
Yeah.
Now Jack has announced his own Blue Sky.
Own Blue Sky, but it's only on Android though.
No, iOS. They're going to start iOS today.
Oh really? Oh wow.
So
let's check it out.
So guess
people
what?
will just migrate there.
Guess what? The day that Jack announced Blue Sky, Musk started returning. Is it a coincidence that he started returning people's things?
Well, that's the spirit of competition.
Do you understand?
Yes.
So
competition is good for business.
So again, doing a color coding is one of the things we had suggested before, and he has started it. Verified media houses have gold ticks. politicians have grey ticks.
Yeah.
You know, so let the blue tick stay.
And then you see one thing about all this nonsense tick is this: there are quite some people who want it will be good to have that tick for them because that's who they are. They don't want to have followership. They just want to like present their mind.
Yeah.
For instance, like my own Twitter handle, for instance, I just want to say my mind. And when you come at me rude, believe me, look, I don't tolerate that. I'm speaking my mind. I don't want to engage. So either you give me the tick or not, it doesn't bother me, you know. But I'm just saying that it helps to hold people accountable that this is who you are.
This is who this person is really.
So when you are making an
people
irresponsible tweet,
people can buy it. Anybody can just
they can use anybody's name to buy.
Exactly.
You understand?
That's the issue.
See, there is nothing in this world that you create that doesn't have its own ups and downs, the do's and the don'ts. You know, so I think it's natural. They will get over it. He's a rich man. He can afford to throw away 40 billion. Me, just give me. Don't give me $40 billion, just naira. I'm done.
Oh my God.
No, I will retire. I'll not work again. I'll just say, Shola Bawoni, how are you?
Fine, sir.
You should be sad now. Oh wow.
When you have friend. No, you don't have to do that.
When my friend is a billionaire. My other friend, Ali.
How is he your friend?
Ali is my friend.
How is he your friend?
Is my friend. When my other
How
friend
did he become your friend?
Ali and Femi, they are my friends.
Wow.
Okay.
Oh wow.
That's interesting.
That's very interesting at this point.
Don't be jealous.
Anyway, over the weekend there was Davido's Timeless concert. It was yesterday, at TBS. A lot of people had different things to say. How the show was 2 p.m. and the video didn't come out until like almost 1 a.m. I think that as much as it's the video, and we know that it happens, everybody does it. I remember Ashake did it a few. I accept I'm being paid. I think it's height of joblessness to stay that long number of hours.
Let's get something. You see, when people are fanatical about things, that's the way they're going to react to it. It's just the same thing we've been talking about religion too. When you're fanatical about going for shows and all that, like for me, I don't want to get myself crammed in one situation and listening to whatever music anybody is singing. Even if Bob Marley comes today, as much as I love his music, the lyrics and everything, I will still not attend the show. Believe me, if it says 2 p.m. for 2 p.m., I will still not be there because I'm not used to it. So I just want to enjoy good music, do my thing, enjoy it just for my purpose. But there are a lot of people who enjoy things like that. So they will just be there waiting like the day they are saying Christ will come. So at the end of the day, you will see them, they will complain, they will do everything.
But they will still be there.
Yeah, but it's quite very disrespectful when you have people who are paying
that's the word.
For a service that they expect you to render, and then you're disrespecting them by not attending at the right time, you take them for granted and all that. So, and what you're also even doing is you're inviting, chaos. And those who are even promoting your shows, you ridicule them, you disrespect the partnership, the opportunities you're giving to them as well, because it's quite symbiotic,
On behalf of 30BG and the old Davido, we apologize to all of you people.
Who are the who?
Who are the we?
Who are the we? We are the who? Who are the?
We apologize to those of you that actually bought tickets and
those of them.
And to these people too, we apologize to them. I just want to talk about how the stage was beautiful. It was like a replica of the National Theatre, with the digital effects and everything. Then the concept of a walkway and all. I like the concept of the VIP center where people, could sit and dance and all. I like the idea that the other artists that came to perform also, gave a good account of themselves. I like the fact that Davido had a show at the TBS, Of course, the TBS is too big. It's not somewhere that anybody, but at least the section that they shut down, they shut it down. Mm-hmm. I like to commend him for that. But I'm not going to say that it is correct for you to take your fans for granted, regardless of whatever happened. Please, we need to work on our timing for these shows. Some people stayed back because of the passion that they have and the love that they have. But let us, we're not talking about you. We're talking about people who go to shows.
I ain't got no passion for
people who go to shows. Some of us have been going to shows all our lives. Like I was actually very young when we started getting to go to concerts. You know,
You're my babe.
The Potson used to organize an Easter jam at that same venue. At that venue.
First at TBS before
then
Lekki,
then Lekki Sun Splash and all of that. We've been doing all these things. Then all the other foreign artists that came through at the National Theatre, at the National Stadium, Children of Africa concert. It's been something that I have liked all my life. That's why I've really, looked out for it. And I'm glad that, we've not had too many negatives. I've never heard any negative about security, and the quality of the sound and the productions and everything. So it's a plus in that angle, but please work on your timing. There's no excuses there. So again, on behalf of the 30BG, I apologize.
Anyway,
he has a blue tick.
I will pay $8.
Finally, before we go, now it's official. Manchester United and Manchester City are going to be playing FA Cup finals.
Something that has never happened before.
Yeah.
As much as they are City rivals and everything, United had the first part of the domination for close to 100 years. In recent history, the last 10 years, it's been City all the way, majorly. And some people are calling it the Bald Chester Derby. Bald Chester because Eric Ten Hag, bald. Pep Guardiola, bald.
So Gorimakpa now.
So the Gorimakpa Derby for Ajegule boys like.
So quickly, who do you think is going to win that game?
I think Man City is going to win. They have a better team,
Well, I think
and they have Erling Haaland.
Is your thoughts? Anyway, you.
Well, I'm not good at. I don't gamble.
I don't gamble too, but I don't think this is a gamble. I'm sorry.
Maybe Shola does some.
I don't think this is.
Shola does some bit of hard, stuff.
No,
see,
one of the things
I watched yesterday's game. Yeah, the game.
One of the tips, that I give people is to do a player-by-player analysis. When you know that this is the likely starting 11 versus this starting 11, do a player-by-player analysis. It's easy for you to know that there are hardly 3 Man United players that will make it into City starting 11.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you get? So if you look at that, that means the other team is likely to dominate. It's just a simple.
I know that.
Also,
we know that they say
but also there are
football.
exceptions too.
Yeah.
Yes,
And
they
those
say-
exceptions you never can predict when it's going to come.
derbies
Derby's
and all
form
that.
is thrown out of the windows. It's thrown away, and anything can happen.
Anything can
But
happen.
For me,
But
I still feel that City will
after what?
take it.
If
On
you
paper.
watch yesterday's game, you will know that United struggled a
that
lot.
was Sheffield.
They actually did really
That
struggle.
was a Sheffield.
They actually did struggle a lot.
And-
It was
and do you know why-
penalties.
and do you know
If
why they
that game
struggled?
could have been Brighton's game.
Dolu, every time De Bruyne is not available, City struggles.
Yeah.
So anything can still happen. He could also get injured.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
every time,
Or suspended.
go and watch every game City lost, they struggled or they drew. Every time De Bruyne is on the lineup or is having a bad day, they struggle.
Oh, okay. But anyway, Sha, we'll definitely see how that goes. Also, yesterday there was a shocker. Newcastle Tottenham, where Newcastle scored 5 goals in 20 minutes.
And that was Brazil and Germany now.
How?
Well, that wasn't a shock. We saw it some years back.
How?
We'll still see it again.
Now, I imagine Conte will be in his apartment and watching like,
Yeah.
like what the hell?
Yeah, there's something fundamentally wrong with Tottenham Hotspurs.
A lot.
Yeah.
6-1
Yeah, and each
to Newcastle.
each
really?
coach that has come there
No.
has said it, but it looks like the owners are not listening.
They're not listening.
You know?
You know what I think their major problem is? Spurs is trying to pretend to be in the league of United, Juventus, Barcelona, and all that.
And then
And they're not.
They're
that is-
pretending to.
Yeah, they bring in
They were
some.
not even.
See, Dolu, you know there are ways you can bring in some very quality players, and then you surround them with normal players, and you want to now create that effect that this is where we are. Most especially because they've been very fortunate to produce a lot of outstanding individual
One or
players.
two.
Yeah, 1 or 2 you find them out, and then at different times. A Ledley King as a defender.
Yeah,
You
Gareth
know,
Bale.
Gareth Bale,
Yeah.
Paul Parker, Des Walker, and all those
and in
players.
recent
Yes.
times, you
So
know,
they will now prepare it like, okay, this is who we are, but that's not what they
At this
are.
point, they're not even
And that's
looking
exactly
like top
what
6 in Premier
They
League.
are not top 10 anywhere.
Wow.
But you see, when it gets to the nitty gritty and they get some decent results, and they begin to, like, when people are analyzing, they're talking on TV, on radio, and they say, oh, look at what United is doing. Yeah, I see Spurs. Spurs is nowhere. That's the thing. So it was just a calamity waiting to happen.
No, it was really a calamity.
And Conte said something, that there's some players who feels they're really big, and when they're playing, you could see those players. They don't mark. And let's not hide it. Harry Kane is the chief commander.
I honestly feel that Harry Kane is a very lazy player. Why? Because if he's not, I felt he would have.
Do you know why he's lazy? Because they don't prod him like every other person. He's a pampered child. I
feel that if you're not lazy, you should have left Tottenham.
For instance, he wanted to leave, and the establishment says Spurs is the establishment, they're big, they're that, they need a leader, you have to be this and that, and then he stays back.
Because if he pushes himself, to be honest with you, he probably will go to some teams and be benched.
Of course, he will struggle to play.
He will really struggle
to work
play.
hard.
Yeah. He will really do.
Look at Steve McManaman. When he went to Liverpool, that was one of the hardest time for him. But he struggled, and he was always, whenever he was playing at Real, you see him just at top level, much more than Liverpool. Yeah. But he was on the bench.
And you remember,
and he was playing a very active role.
Who he probably would remind me of? Take for example, an Aubameyang. Aubameyang was at some point the star in Arsenal, and then he left Arsenal, and you're like, okay, he actually is still struggling anyway. So we'll definitely
there's some players like that. Owen Hargreaves was at Bayern, an English player, playing in the heart of Bayern's midfield, and he was doing very well. And because he had a lot of players to contend with, super players, he had no choice than to train very hard. But when he returned to England, outside of the fact that he was injured,
intermittently.
Yeah, but his game dropped, because by then he was already an establishment person, and he was the face of English football. Touch not my anointed. And of course, the anointed will go down.
Of course.
So that's what is happening. So Spurs is just a pretending club. They don't talk.
Okay. Anyway, on that note, that is all we're able to take today on the Boom Bar. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Thank you for everybody watching. Thank you for everybody that came back to watch. Even though there was a breaking transmission. Thank you. We'll be back again tomorrow at 3 p.m. West African time to give you another wonderful edition of the bar. Do have a beautiful day ahead.